Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. Ours is a place where dreams take flight, voices are heard, and stories are shared. This is where cultures meet, connections are formed, and ideas are transformed into action. This is your destination for authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations. We're where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover our world of education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our USA Global TV channel and download our USA Global TV app. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. With heartfelt thanks to our executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, music scored by Yifei Tang from Cloud Road Music, creative direction by Paul Garcia, and I'm Al Cini, and I'm very proud to be part of the USA Global TV and Radio family. So join us here at USA Global TV and Radio. Make us your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Thank you for being a part of our global community. Let's inspire together.
Howdy, Rod O'Loughlin here. We're on the Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. My middle show of the day, I just got finished a show called the Corner Bookstore. We're on the Wise Ones now, and immediately following the show, I'll be doing Talking Heads. And my topic today is on Parkinson's, the causes, the triggers, the prevention, a lot of things dealing with Parkinson's. When I'm not doing TV shows, I research the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I fell in love with chemistry back in high school before I met my wife. Actually, I've been married 57 years. And I love chemistry. I love being able to go into the body and look, okay, well, this thing causes that. Well, okay, if it causes that, can I speed it up? Can I slow it down? How can I affect that reaction? That's what I do when I'm not on TV. I spend a lot of time researching, writing, speaking on these topics. But that's enough about me today. Let's get into our primary star of the show today, John Goodwin. He is the president of Galaxy Press. And John, please join me up here on stage.
Hello, Red. Thank you very much for having me on your show today.
It's interesting. I almost came out with that wrong word again, but I was
Galaxy Quest.
President
of Galaxy Quest. No.
Anyway, but I had to slow down for a half a second just to make sure I said it right.
Yeah.
Backstage, we were talking, and all of a sudden I came up and I said something to John, and I used the wrong word. And I said, okay, fine. I need to get that out of my brain. But
which makes it lodge.
But Galaxy Press has been around longer than Galaxy Quest. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it's what we do is Galaxy Press. It's a science fiction fantasy, primarily publisher, fiction works, and we publish all the fiction works of L. Ron Hubbard. He was one of the best-selling authors in the 1930s and 40s. And so a lot of the books you see in the background there were books that were written then. In 1982, came out again with a book called Battlefield Earth, which has been on the New York Times bestseller list for when it first came out 9 weeks, and then went back on again. And it's been a very successful. It's one of those hero's journey stories, which is age appropriate from 13 on up. And then what happened in 1983 was a contest started called Writers of the Future. And just earlier this year, we released volume 41, which is the 41st year. And it's a international writing and art competition, which we just this past week, I got gold award for the best anthology from the New York City Big Book Award. That's our second gold award we got for this book so far this year. But it's an opportunity for new writers and new artists to get that break. It's competition. If anybody listening here is an aspiring writer or artist, I really encourage you to check out the contest. It's at writersofthefuture.com, but it's free to enter. It's judged blind. So the judges that we have are themselves international best-selling authors and world-renowned artists. And all they see is your art that you submitted or the story and a number. So they have no idea if you're male, female, nationality, ethnic, anything. And so only the best of the best are the ones that win. A lot of today's top writers and artists actually got their start from this contest because it's been going on now for over 4 decades. So that's one of our pride projects that we do every year. And like I said, this year we're exceptionally excited because we break 1,000. So we will have introduced 1,000 people by publishing them in Writers of the Future over the 41 years. And this will be 42 years. And nobody's done that before. This is the first time that somebody's done that much to put amazing talent into the world of science fiction and fantasy. And right now, it's also it's a big deal because you've got so much competition. There's over 3 million books published a year. That's a lot of books. So how do you get your story? How do you get your novel heard? And so one of the best ways, and it's recognized by other editors, is winning this contest. But now, because it is so popular, we have thousands of entries every quarter between writers and artists, that even when you get an honorable mention, that's no longer a reject. That's you won honorable mention, which is the top 10%, which editors and publishers know. So we know that the publisher and editors at Tor and at Bain Books and other publishing houses will read the book to find out who they want to be able to research and reach out to publish them. So we're very excited about that.
Okay, so L. Ron Hubbard passed away in 1986. He was
correct.
70 some years old. And Galaxy Quest, from at least my initial research, showed that you started up about 1986 as a company. No coincidence. It just sort of happened.
Well, actually, in 1982 is when he started the publishing house, when he released this book, and it had a different cover then. This is a cover that was painted by Frank Vizetta, who is a very famous fantasy artist. And so he painted this one here. And he did all the Conan book covers, and so a lot of stuff for Edgar Rice Burroughs. But anyway, so when he released this book, that's when he started his other publishing ventures to be able to get them being done. So we started then. The first incarnation was called Bridge Publications, and then in 2002, Galaxy Press was created, and I was asked to start that up. So I've been the president of Galaxy Press since 2002 when it started, and I originally joined the publisher in '86. So I've been involved with publishing since 1986.
Okay, so you are involved with it. Have you actually published any of your own books?
No, I've published about 500 press releases. I do a lot of publicity and articles, and I've been on multiple boards. I've been on the Audio Publishers Association, so I was on there for like 5 years pre-pandemic, and been involved with the Science Fiction Writers of America, Mystery Writers of America, Western Writers of America, just trying to do stuff. The main thing I do is with Writers of the Future, trying to encourage writers. So I'm more into how can I help other writers. I go to conventions, I'm on panels, much as what you do, with how you like to further the information you have to be able to help others with your knowledge of chemistry. With my knowledge of publishing, I like to help other writers. Like some people, I want to go traditional, which is where you go to the big publishing houses and you sell your book. They give you a commission, a royalty payment advance, and then it sells. And you get hopefully your next contract. But there's also self-publishing and indie publishing. Self is where you just do it all yourself. You upload to Amazon, or there's half a dozen different formats you can do, and they're all work good. If you're willing to do the hustle, it's probably the better way to go, because your percentage, you'll make closer to 80% or 90% of your sales, whereas if you go via the traditional route, you're going to get 10 to 15%. So, and then you got indie publishing, which is the smaller presses, which you can go, and they do more profit sharing type stuff where we'll go 50-50 with you, but you've got to go in there. Today's modern publishing, you got to be willing to work. You got to build up your social presence. You got to be able to go out there and talk to people in conventions, whatever the genre is that you write in or art that you actually create for. You've got to hit those conventions and meet your potential fans and let word of mouth build and the quality of your work continue to grow. And I do a lot of that instead, and I do a lot of press releases, publicity, like I said, articles. I've got a podcast that address that. So that's what I like to do, and that's like my contribution to the genres.
I have a good friend of mine here in the Houston area who had some pretty good stories about Vietnam when he was over there. And he wanted traditional, that he was not willing to accept anything else. And for years, everything looked good. And then all of a sudden, it fell through. And then he was, okay, I'm still going to, he ended up with Texas Tech because of their publishing of a lot of stuff from Vietnam. And he's been pretty happy with that. The book's been out doing pretty well.
That's great.
Last Friday, I was at an event, and a guy has been doing research for the last 20 some years on a particular Ranger battle that he has unbelievable amount of information published by LSU, Louisiana State University. And so I guess the indie publishers can be a university, they can be an independent, they can be just about anything.
University publishers pretty much are like the indie category. And it's just, if, like I said, if you're willing to do the work, and the thing about indie publishers is they're understaffed, overworked. And so if you go there as an author and help out and say, okay, I'm going to contribute to the motion here, they're going to love you. And if you got a good story, a good book, a good research on it, and they're going to really support you. Because if you're there, not like leaning on them, but saying, okay, I'm up with you, I'm shoulder to shoulder with you, it makes a world of difference in that world of publishing. With traditional publishing, it's also getting more and more that, okay, what can you bring to the party? And some things that I really encourage writers is like, if you write a good book, that's great. It does not give you license to be a jerk. It doesn't give you a license to have bad manners. It doesn't give you license to just turn it over to somebody else to just do everything for you and expect that it's going to be everything you want. You know, if you want it to be a success, you got to be willing to go in there and make it a success. There's a lot of tools in there how to do it. You know, there's great shows like yours and others that will help an author to be able to get their face in front of potential readers. But times have changed from what it was like in the 80s and 90s. And you've got to grow with that. If, you know, the percentage of those that make it just like, I'm going to write a book and just, that's all I do is write books. That percentile is so small. It's way less than 1%. Like I said, 3 million books, you know, so how much do you want to get your book out there? If you just want to say I wrote a book, okay, cool. That's fine. You wrote a book. But if you're going to go out there and get it known by people, it entails more work.
Okay. So let's say that you come across an author, they've been self-published for a while. They got a dozen, 2 dozen books, doesn't matter, but they got more than a few. And they say, I want to be a New York Times bestselling author. How do I do that? So you search the crevices of your brain and you come up and you say, you got to do these 3 things or whatever. What does it really take to separate somebody who's a self-publisher to get recognized by, you know, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, somebody beyond Amazon?
Sure. Well, I mean, one thing too, just, you know, it's Amazon is everybody's favorite name to disparage, but they're also, I think, 70% of the book market. So there's a lot to be said for doing well with Amazon. I've had several guests on who make 7 figures a year through Amazon as a self-published author through Amazon. So it is possible to do it, and they do quite well with it. I'm very happy with it. The way you do is if you have to be noticed, the publishing houses will look to see, okay, so you seem to be doing well. You're getting a lot of attention. They scan through social media. They look at bestseller lists. They look at, you know, Amazon lists. Who's ranking up there on the different categories? Because you just go there and look, and you can see the top 10, top 20, and say, okay, let's track this guy here. How's he doing? And then they'll reach out to you. You don't go. It's not necessarily straight publisher to author. You go through an agent. So. One way to get to meet agents is going to conventions and meeting them where they attend. One way, you know, well, who agented this book? You can also just look up a book and see the history of it, and you can find out who represented that book and present yourself. I I have one of our judges for the Rise of Future contest is a guy named Hugh Howey. He's got a TV series with one of his books called Silo, starring Rebecca Ferguson. But he's had 3 of his books series made into TV series, and he started off self-published, and then he was wooed by the big houses, so he went traditional, and then he went back to being self-published because he liked to follow his own direction. He does novelette, and then he combines that to make a novel. And then he does novelette. He does it like that. That's his formula that he does. And he wants to do his own pace. With traditional, you got to be a certain size and certain frequency. So he said, I wasn't willing to do that. Some people are. I've got another judge named Tim Powers, Robert Sawyer, Orson Scott Card. They like the traditional, but there's well-established authors right now that when they write their book and they send it in, they get, their check, and that everything else is take care, and they just do their next book. They go out on their signing tours, but that's, to get in there, you need to be noticed. You need to have a book that people are going to notice to say, okay, I'm going to shop around my submission. And again, there's a lot of websites you can go to be able to find, okay, how do I do this? But it's got to be more and more proactive because, and it's just the thing, if there's a lot of good books out there being written. And so if I write a good book and you write a good book and I'm a jerk, I'm just like, I'm haughty. I'm like, I feel like I'm the next best thing to whoever your favorite genre author is. And I act like that. And then you write your book and you submit it and you're very nice. You're pleasant. Your manners are in on talking to whoever you're talking to. Who are they going to choose? The arrogant such and such, or the person that's nice. And so that's a new thing right now that people have to take care of. You can't be that haughty, overbearing person anymore and expect that you're going to, hit all the bases going around and score a home run, because it's more than not, you're not going to, because there's no need for a publisher to accept somebody like that when there's so many other people that are willing to be nice and proper manners. It does matter.
You were talking a moment ago about novelette. It kind of reminded me of sometimes I see these season 1, episode 1, and there's 8 episodes. And in reality, it's the book of whatever that was about. And those 8 episodes are 8 of the 15 chapters in the book.
Yeah.
And so I can see where somebody says, okay, I'm kind of, because here is the real message that I want to get across, or the action, or whatever it may happen to be. So I can easily see, instead of trying to write that entire thing at one time, you just let it develop and just pet it.
Yeah.
And make it your baby and just let it grow a little bit at a time. So I can obviously see that way of doing it. But some people also have the big picture and they see everything at one time.
Yeah. And so you've got the movie that came out several years ago, 410 to Yuma. It's a short story, so you don't have to get into these long novels for a movie, but writing movie scripts and that whole thing is a bit of a different technology of what to do. And they don't necessarily blend over. That's why when you see movies, like when you write a novel, you have an unlimited budget. You've got the sky's the limit. And then you go make a movie out of it. And all of a sudden you've got if it's an indie, you've got maybe $3 million. If it's a decent sized budget, maybe you got 70. And if you got one of these big blockbusters, maybe you do have, James Cameron, you've got $1 billion or however much he spends. So you've got to think with that too on what you're writing. Whereas when you're just writing your total creativity, fantasy, man, I got this and these towering crystal kingdoms, and you've got these fairies that fly around, and you got these huge, amazing dragons. I mean, those are a dime a dozen in your novel, but when you go to put it on screen, it's a different thing there. So it is interesting how, if you're thinking you're writing something to go to screen, then you have to think with that too, that somebody's going to have to take your story and convert it and make it filmable. And that might make a big difference to your story that you weren't interested in having. But then if you think with that as you're going along, which is a bit easier to do with thrillers and dramas than with epic science fiction and fantasy. That's why they're normally big budget movies.
John, we're going to be going to break here in just a few seconds. When we come back, a follow-on to the New York Times thought is to how do, let's say, self-published authors, how do they get their books out into bookstores as opposed to just the general sale? So that's the road I want to go down a little bit when we come back, and then we'll continue going. So
sure,
we'll be back here in about a minute and a half.
Okay.
What if one simple skill could change the way you connect with the world? What if listening could open doors to deeper relationships, stronger businesses, and a better you? Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, the Listening Mentor, brings you USA Global TV and Radio, a space where voices are heard, ideas are shared, and global communities thrive. Through the elevated listeners' courses and books, you'll master the power of listening, set boundaries with confidence, and transform conversations into opportunities. Join us. Listen, learn, elevate. Whether you're a leader, a coach, a business owner, or someone seeking stronger connections, your journey starts today. Subscribe, learn, and transform today.
Welcome back to the Wise Ones. I'm Rhoda Laughlin here on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And the gentleman to my left, John Goodwin, is president of Galaxy Press, and he is our star today on our show. And he's going to tell us, how do we get our books into bookstores? Authors, that's always been a fascinating question for me. Some are more successful than others, but it seems like most of the time we fail.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Some people, when they become an author, they go, all I want is to see my face on the cover of the Rolling Stone. So the equivalent of that is they want to see their book in a Barnes and Noble. They want to see their book in a Books a Million, that type of thing. And that's a definite, you got to be willing, if you're going to go, traditional, they will put you in those stores. Now that's a double-edged sword. So it goes into stores. It's got to sell in those stores because they have a shelf life. If the average book is maybe a month. And so in that 1 month, if it sells, they'll reorder. If it doesn't sell, and if it has to sell in the chain, not just in that bookstore. So you can put it out there and then you come back and you get a bunch of returns and, you have your photo op with your book, with the bookseller there in your bookstore, and that's good. It requires good books and persistence on that. I remember working with one of my judges. Kevin Anderson is his name. I've following him since the beginning of his career. He's the one that right now co-authors all the Dune books and he's the executive producer of the Dune movies. He's published almost 200 different novels now, very, very successful. At the beginning, he used to call me and say, John, I'm going to be in Pasadena, which is a city next to Los Angeles, and I'm going to be at a store called Romans. Can you make sure there's some people there? Because this is the beginning. He was there with Brian Herbert. I mean, this is Dune, for crying out loud. But it was at that point, the beginning of his career. And so I would bring in van loads of people so he'd have a good audience there. It was legitimate. They bought books, but I made sure that it was a well-attended event. When he used to go to conventions, you'd see him walking up and down the aisles, having 2 boxes of books under his arms that he'd take to his various book signings. Now it's a whole different scene. He's got lines that wrap around to see him. So he's grown. It's been like multiple decades. He's got New York Times bestsellers. He's got the Guinness World Record for the biggest, most successful book signing. That was with a book that we did with him. And so you're going to, if you're willing to do that hustle, then you can do that. one thing you can do as a start thing is if you're going to be an indie publisher, which is fine. That means you just need to have, for a bookstore to order your book, you need to have an ISBN. So that's an International Standards Book Number. And that's the little number you'll see on the right above the barcode at the back of the book. And they need that in order to be able to scan it into their system. So if you have a local bookstore that you frequent, whether it's a Barnes and Noble or a Books A Million or J&J bookstores or whatever it is, you can go there. And if you know the manager, because you've been your bookstore for how many years, and say, I got a book coming out. Can you please order it and I'll do a book event, a book signing. And more than often than not, they will, because they want to encourage the local authors. And one of the things that local authors can do, they can help support their local indie bookstore. So that's an absolute surefire way to get your books into a bookstore. Now, to make it as a national distribution, this is where word of mouth kicks in. You need to have that bookstore manager go, wow, that was pretty good. I'm surprised. Then you can go to another one, say, well, can you help me get into this store? And then they will help you, because they want to encourage writers as well. That's their business, is book sales. So they like working with authors. So that's the way that you can actually go. The other thing you can do is when you self-publish through Amazon, you get your books into Amazon, and that's all it is. You can do the print on demand, or mostly it's the ebooks. There are other programs. One of them is through Ingram. Now, Ingram is the biggest distributor in the world, and if you go through Ingram, you can do a self-publishing thing through them. They can get books into bookstores. So Ingram can actually do that. That's part of it, because they distribute to bookstores. They're the main distributor that gets books into bookstores. So you can work through them as well to get your books into, the chains, various indies and stuff like that. So that is a solution for you to get your books into bookstores. And then you can get it there, and you can get your picture with your book in a bookstore.
I remember back when, a long time ago, Hunt for Red October came out, and Tom Clancy was a fairly unknown at that time, but
Yep.
He was upset because what he wrote didn't actually occur in the movie. There's a lot of interpretive stuff, and you kind of expect that the book is the focus. But I remember Tom Wolfe came out with The Right Stuff about NASA, and I read that book, and it seemed like that was absolutely one page per. The movie was so close to that book, it was unbelievable. So that just having a book as a movie, sometimes it's very realistic and follows, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, we had a book that came out, Battlefield Earth. It was made into a movie in 2000, and mixed reviews. But the thing is like, when you give a book over to Hollywood's going to do whatever they're going to do, and it'd be different now. 25 years later, the guy that actually financed the movie said it was the most successful movie financially he ever did. But the studio, the producing the book, you have budget constraints. So you've got, the weapons, the spaceships, the people that are involved with it. They didn't have the budget to travel to Scotland and get the Scotsmen to become the big, let's take back the planet. Instead, they were in Canada, so they went to a cave and got people dressed up as cavemen and got them to do it. And they couldn't afford all the props needed for all the spaceships and stuff. So they had Harrier jets, which 1,000 years in the future, of course, they're not going to be working, and the fuel will not be there. And there's just too many things. And so the fans didn't support it. And so it didn't survive that, it's not the book. And I mean, I remember seeing the first 2 or 3 incarnations of Dune before the last one came out, and I didn't like it at all. It was like, that's not the book. That's not what I remember. That's, so you've got that happening. And so that's something that you've got to realize. Once you turn over to Hollywood's going to, and you got your screenwriters, and they got to justify their insane payroll. So they're going to change, and they're going to say, oh, okay, he needs to be married to a gorilla. Said there's no gorillas in the book. Well, put it there. It's like, it's silly what they do, but that's what they'll do to justify their existence. And So it's unfortunate, but that's what you run into when you then face Hollywood.
Yeah. I've seen some where they have extra romance. It's not in the book, but it's there for the audience of the movie. So it is what it is. But you were talking at the very beginning of the show about writers and illustrators of the future. And you're coming up on the 42nd anniversary of that and 1,000. Let's go down that road for a minute or two, because that's something that can really and truly help authors. But one little niche that kind of is out there, but how do you handle AI when you're evaluating an anonymous illustration or work that is a manuscript?
Well, fortunately, I mean, we've got it in our rules, no AI allowed, no AI storytelling or AI art. And it gets into, people try to force everything into the gray zone, saying, okay, look at, well, you use Photoshop, that's AI now. Well, if you use it as a tool to be able to enhance something, that's one thing as compared to creating the painting, so you get people try to force that issue to make it something that's not, and that's not, I've seen people, their creative process is prompts. And so that's not creative process. So when you have AI art, fortunately, there's still AI programs that can detect AI created art. So as long as we have that, we can stay one step ahead. The other thing we do as well, if we suspect something is AI and the guy's not being straight with us, we'll say, okay, show us the layered files. So when you create art, you start off with the sketch and then you do this, and each step of the way, a copy is made. So show me your layered files so you can see all the steps of creativity that went into that piece of art. And if they can do that, then you're good. If they can't do that, then say, okay, sorry. We're just not interested in the contests are to be able to support creatives, and a creative is someone that can actually, on their own cognizance and interest and creativity mentally, put together a story and see it through. If you can use Grammarly to make sure your punctuation is okay, awesome. That's fine, because you'll get booted if your punctuation is bad. And if you have, if you violate tense and number and all that stuff in grammar, you can get help with that. But the story creation itself, you've got to be the one that creates it. And the art, you've got to be the one that creates it. Our judges right now in the level of the storytelling, stories is really easy to see when it's AI, because they're really bad. AI stories. I've heard stories, oh yeah, it's awesome. No, it isn't. For my podcast, I read a book a week. And our judges are very well read, and they themselves are New York Times bestsellers. So they can tell when something is created versus reassembled from something else. But the art, our judges that we have as illustrators are themselves the main drivers of cover art, of oil paintings, of structure within illustration. And they say, no, that's not right. That's not how it looks. They look it down even to the brush strokes. See, there's no brush strokes there. Or if it's a quote unquote a painting. So they look at various things that that will show still right now. And I realize that AI is growing at it's the curve is like going very, very steep as it improves in its quality. Maybe at some point it's going to be there, but right now, the whole subject of that, the spirit of humanity is the thing that creates and has the ability to do that. And a machine just does not have that. As much as the people that make the machines want to think, no, it's a real person. It can be made into a real person. It can be made sentient. I'm sorry. It's just, it ain't so. It can get really good, but it can beat me in chess. Okay, I'm happy. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, I use AI because I write how-to books,
Yeah.
And so I'm diving into the human body. I need something that tells me what's going on. And the better prompt that I can tell AI what I want. I got some really powerful ones right now that just super exponential, and I can get what I need. But then I get it, and okay, fine. This enzyme does that. Then I need to go do my own due diligence and my own research to say, how can I put this in a 7th grade level so people can understand it and also be able to be the fact that, okay, this actually happens. So I have some level of credibility with what I'm talking about. And so there's things that I can do with AI because I use it as a tool, but not to do my writing. Same thing with cover designs. I have some authors that I've worked with that I give AI. Here's what the author wants. Here's 5 covers, John. Which one do you like? You like B and C? Okay, fine. Then we can take B and C and then work with the designer to get exactly what you want. So I think it's a good tool, but not necessarily in the world that you're in, where you're writing stories and things like that. There's just a major mismatch of the technology, I think, right now.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that's just the purpose of our contest is discover new creatives. That's what it's about, and so it's a different purpose. And there's always something. As soon as you say you can't use AI, somebody's going to try to game it. That's just the nature of those creative people. So with that, we just got to be smart and be able to recognize that. And so that when they come out, because we fly them out to Hollywood for a week-long workshop on how to master their art or their writing. And so it doesn't work if the way they won is by doing a prompt, because they're not going to get anything out of the workshop. And they're going to be an embarrassment to themselves and to us.
Okay, one last question before I turn it over to you to tell people how to get in touch with you. Is that you're the president of the Hollywood Christmas Parade?
Yes.
Give me 30 seconds. What's going on with the Hollywood Christmas Parade?
So I'm having a meeting on Monday with the owner of the parade. We're going over what we're doing. I've got various people. I went to a recent event, and so I had about half a dozen of the LA City Council members. I like to be in the parade. And I met with the sheriff, the LA sheriff, invited him. He's such a nice man. So I invited him. He wants to be in it. It's the biggest celebration that's available to everybody. It's free to observe. And so in Hollywood, people don't realize, you think of the glitz and glamour, but what it is there's a lot of hardworking people that are not the glitz and glamour people. They're outside of Hollywood. So the people that keep it afloat are hardworking folks. So we want to be able to provide something they can all get. It's been fortunately turned into the biggest holiday special, because it takes place on the Sunday after Thanksgiving, and it then runs as a holiday special in the middle of December. And it's like I said, it's the biggest one that the CW network has. So it's something that celebrates the holiday season. And what's really good in LA, what I do it for, because it's not political, and it's so divided here in Hollywood. So it's not political, it's not religious. It's just about celebrating the season. So we've got Christianity, we got Judaism, we've got Muslim, we got every religion is represented there, to be able to just enjoy each other, the community, and that's what that's about. And so that takes place on the 30th of November.
Okay. How do people get in touch with you, John?
Well, they can find me on my Facebook page. It's John Goodwin ASI. ASI stands for Author Services Inc., but ASI, I'm also the president of ASI, which is the literary agency for L. Ron Hubbard. So John Goodwin ASI is my Facebook page. My webpage is galaxypress.com. I'm a publisher. I have lots of amazing books I recommend you check out. And if you're an aspiring writer and want to see yourself published in an upcoming book, and it just automatically rolls over to the next quarter, the next contest to enter, go to writersofthefuture.com, and there you can enter the writer contest, the illustrator contest. We have a free online workshop, a free forum. I've got a podcast. Everything on that website is free that can help you if you're an aspiring writer or artist to take your next step as a professional.
John, thank you so very much. I learned a lot today. You answered a couple of questions that I had in the back of my mind that, okay, fine, I really need to ask him. And I'm glad you gave me that information. So thank you. And I actually look forward to our next visit. It's going to be down the future, I'm sure. I know you're headed off to Salt Lake City here for a big event coming up in a week. I wish you the best of time there. And with that, I'm going to bid you adieu, and I'm going to close out the show.
Thank you very much, Red. Very, very much appreciated this.
Take care. Red O'Loughlin here. We're getting ready to sign off on the Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. My next show is called Talking Heads. I'll be talking about Parkinson's disease, what are the causes, what triggers it, what prevents it, Anyway, join me at about 20 minutes, 1 o'clock Central. Take care, y'all. Bye now.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA-Global-TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.